It's Sunday, June 1st, and this is The Little Match Girl 5, The Hunter's Vow. I'm Jay Essen, and this game is the last published game currently available in the Little Match Girl series that Ryan has created. That is publicly available, at least. I think there is a new one in development. But this is the last one we'll be playing here until a new one is officially released. As stated here, in The Little Match Girl 5 by Hans Christian Andersen, we follow up on some threads from previous games. This is a long one. As such, I expect to break this into multiple sessions. I think I only have about 80 minutes to play today, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. I should point out, this is a game I have not played in its entirety. I've only played parts, and so a lot of this is going to be new to me, and that was, in fact, a big part of the inspiration for me to start streaming in the first place. So I'm very excited to get into this. So let's begin. In sleep that sometimes shuts up sorrow's eye, steal me a while from mine own company. MND 3.2.464-5. Type restore to resume a saved game, or start to begin a new game. If it's been a while since you played all the other Little Match Girl games, type recap. When Ebenezer Scrooge traveled to Austria in 1999 while assembling the Crown of Pearls, she was surprised to find her future self already there, a captive of Queen Ate and her coterie of vampires, incapacitated by magical slumber. Someone else was visiting Austria too, a young man named Linus, whom Ebenezer was not at all happy to encounter, as only weeks before, during their attempt to liberate Avel IX, he had spoiled the mission by killing the prepotents. Linus tried to tell Ebby that he had come to Austria to help her, but she would hear none of it. Instead, she continued on her current assignment, confident that she would later manage to escape the vampire's clutches without anyone else's help. Meanwhile, in 1922, Ebenezer discovered a dusty journal in the Arizona desert. The author of the journal claimed to have special knowledge of Ebenezer's destiny. Who could this Michael McKeever be, and what does he know about the Zeus Maleficus? Let's find out. Let's start. I don't trust him, said Riemann, bristling his feathers. He's a very capable young man, answered Ebenezer Scrooge. His accomplishments speak for themselves. I don't think we have any cause to worry. I don't mean he's incompetent, Riemann groused. I'm talking about his character. None of his accomplishments can undo the slimy things he's done. That was years ago, said Ebenezer. Oh, I completely misread that. That's Ebenezer Scrooge talking with Riemann. That was years ago, said Ebenezer. Time changes people. People do not change, said the crow. I'll give you an example. But he could not give his example, for the fellow of whom they were speaking had just entered the dining hall. He was a well-dressed young man with dark hair and dark eyes, and his right arm was a swan's wing. Hans Christian Andersen, in association with Inform 7 version 10.1.2/D and Vorpal 4.0.1, presents A Beloved Fairy Tale in Textovision, featuring Sir Ebenezer Scrooge, BT, Riemann the Talking Crow, Linus, whose right arm is a swan's wing, and introducing Lobo, Hans Christian Andersen's production of Little Match Girl 5, The Hunter's Vow. Part 1. You're Better Than No One. Dining Hall. The long table in the center of the hall was half covered with papers, and these papers were covered with the most obscure symbols, figures, and diagrams. Ebenezer Scrooge stood a respectable distance from the display, and Riemann was in his usual place on Scrooge's shoulder. The doorway to the east led to the kitchen, west to the nursery, and the foyer was south. Good morning, Sir Ebenezer, said the young man, bowing slightly. Good morning, Riemann. Good morning, Linus, cried Scrooge. Riemann said nothing. The invitations are ready. Here they are. And the old man handed over a sheaf of papers. Thank you, sir, said Linus. He confirmed all that he was carrying. He had the invitations, he had his money pouch, and he had the skeletonic key. I suppose I'm ready to begin. Let's examine these. The key was a piece of ivory just under 2 inches long, very old and etched with indecipherable patterns. This was a very special key. It could unlock anything that could be unlocked, but it could also lock anything that could be locked, and this is the quality that most interested Linus. "Doesn't that belong to Ebenezabeth?" asked Freeman. "She loaned it to me," said Linus. "She said I'd get more use out of it than her." We examine the money pouch. In the small purse were various coins, broad Danish skillings, iridescent Atlantean obols, and some unremarkable Canadian currency. We examine the invitations. Each invitation was a stiff card, covered in ebullient calligraphy. He had 5 to distribute. We examine ourselves. Linus was only in his 20s, but in his face was the sternness of an older man. From his dress it could be seen that he was not at all a poor man, and of course it must be mentioned that the right sleeve of his jacket was tailored specially to allow for his wing. Was it beautiful, this fan of white feathers at his side, or was it a garish sight, an unseemly miscreation? You are welcome to your opinion, of course, and I am welcome to mine. It's something I should have done earlier and forgot about. Let's type about. Thank you for your interest in Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Match Girl 5, The Hunter's Vow. I really hope you have fun with this game. It was tested by Sarah Wilson, Jason Love, Robert Eggleston, Leah Luo, and Srihari Narayanan. I didn't get that pronounced well. Development of The Little Match Girl 5, The Hunter's Vow was made possible through the generous Patreon support of Deep Breath, Jenny Polodna, Rich Cheng, Carolyn Van Usseltine, Carl Muckenhaupt, Derek Sotak, Matthew Zimmerman, Doug Orleans, Emily Short, Zachary Hodgins, Jacques Frichet, Michael Ziegler, Janice M. Eisen, Samuel Barawi, Janelle Marie, Matt Schneider, Alan Tan, Sarah, Yerrick, Robin Johnson, Carl Ove Huftamer, Q Fever, Greg Frost, Robert Palutzian, Grant Veeder, Mark, Jordan Ish, Nils Fagerberg, Sarah W., Russ Wang, Jeremy Wright, Benjamin Slade, Jason Farrell, Dominia, Magnus Buchanan, Jason Love, Julia Ramsey, Stephen Norris, Jessica Seidel, Robert Eggleston, Tobias V. Langhoff, Brett W., and Josh Lawrence. If you'd like to support my work like those fine people, or if you'd like to play the next Little Match Girl game before everyone else, please check out patreon.com/rcveeder. Also, please let me know what you thought about this game via email, rcveeder@me.com. Let's talk to Ebenezer. Thank you for allowing me the use of this building, Sir Ebenezer. It suits my purposes precisely. I'm very glad, said Scrooge. I hated to see it standing empty. I've been very impatient for the official opening. Is there anything else I can do to help? Asked Scrooge. I don't think so, said Linus. I'll just be going here and there around the house, with this, and he held out the skeletonic key. Examined Scrooge. Sir Ebenezer Scrooge was older than he had ever been, and age had pinched out his pointed nose and wiry chin. The twinkle of joy that filled his eyes on most occasions had abandoned him for the moment. He was cognizant, however briefly, of the fact that he was an old man with many troubles, and that not all those troubles could be settled by his immense wealth. But then he saw that Linus was looking him over, and the twinkle returned to his eyes. Perhaps he had assumed the appearance of insouciance so as not to worry Linus, or perhaps he had just been reminded of something pleasant. We examine Freeman as well. Freeman was a large black crow. He watched Linus closely, very closely, especially closely when he thought Linus didn't notice. We talked to Freeman. Linus had noticed Freeman's silence and decided not to bother him. Fair enough. Let's look once more at the dining hall. The long table in the center of the hall was half covered with papers, and these papers were covered with the most obscure symbols, figures, and diagrams. Ebenezer Scrooge stood at a respectable distance from the display, and Freeman was in his usual place on Scrooge's shoulder. Let's examine the papers. Linus cast an eye over the plans once again, partly to confirm his work, and partly to admire it. The maps and timetables and so on had been rendered rather well, he thought, especially in consideration of how many concepts represented by the figures did not properly exist within three-dimensional space. Do you have to draw everything out before you do anything? Asked Freeman. Ebenezabeth never has to do any planning. She just, goes. She's very lucky that way, said Linus. Let's go east first, to the kitchen. A pair of large cast-iron stoves spoke to the great number of people Scrooge hoped would be fed here. The ovens, sinks, and benches were all newly built for the house, and the kitchen was an immaculate, unspoiled Eden for the moment. Yet it was easy to envision the bedlam that would reign in this room when the home was opened at last. The pantry door stood to the southeast. The way back to the dining hall was west. Presently there came a loud flapping of wings from the dining hall. In came Freeman, fluttering over to Linus in a great rush, as if he had been pursuing his quarry for weeks. "On second thought," he said, "I'm going with you." "I wish you wouldn't," said Linus. "I can handle this myself. Trust me." "I will not," Freeman insisted. "Trust you, that is. I will accompany you, to supervise you, on behalf of Sir Ebenezer." And he hopped up onto Linus's shoulder. Can we talk to him now? He had nothing to say to Freeman, and he knew that if Freeman had anything to say, he wouldn't require any coaxing. But then he realized there was one thing that did bother him. "Your talons are very sharp," said Linus. "Do you think you could loosen your grip a bit?" Certainly, said Freeman. But he didn't. Wow. Okay, they are a pair getting along very well, it looks like. Let's examine these stoves. The two stoves were identical, but not symmetrical. Linus would have preferred for one to have its chimney on the left, and the other to have its chimney on the right. He tried not to trouble himself too much over this detail. Let's examine the sinks. There were two sinks, as there were two stoves, and they were spotless. And benches. The long table in the middle of the room was destined for many gashes, stains, and scorches, yet for the moment it was quite intact. Let's go into the pantry to the southeast. Let's open pantry. He opened the pantry door. Into the pantry. The home's pantry was as yet unstocked. All the shelves were bare. The door to the northwest led back to the kitchen. Let's see. It's clear that we are supposed to do things with the key. Let's try closing the door. And lock door with key. He locked the kitchen door with the skeletonic key. "What did you do that for?" asked Freeman. Linus did not answer. He thought this would make the next part of the trick rather more impressive. No, we can't just unlock the door. Okay, open the door. Then he opened the kitchen door, revealing a passageway to a snowy town in Canada. "Oh," said Freeman, "I can see how that'd come in handy." He stepped through the kitchen door. Dawson City, Yukon Territory, 17th December, 1902. Outside the cabin. A modest wooden cabin sits on a snowy hillside to the southeast, surrounded by alder trees. The sky is cloudy and dim. The cold is malicious. At the bottom of the hill, 8th Avenue runs northeast and southwest. Church Street leads northwest. "Is there any way you can get us inside that cabin?" Freeman asks. "Sure," you tell him. "If I unlock the door, it'll go back to acting like a regular door." "Do you think it's warmer in there than it is out here?" "Possibly." Let's try it. Unlock door. You can't unlock the narrow wooden door while that's open. Well, let's close the door first. And let's unlock it. You unlock the narrow wooden door with the skeleton key. Now if we open it, and we go in, now we're in the cabin. 2 beds, both covered in quilts. One more bed than this cabin can comfortably accommodate. Between them is a little stove. A tightly folded piece of notepaper sits on top. We examine the notepaper. The paper is folded and you can't see its contents. You unfold the various folds of the notepaper until it is reasonably flat, and now we read it. The note reads, "Linus, Lobo is a bit of a handful, but he means well. The fastest way to win him over is with salty candy. If I had any on hand, I'd hide it somewhere in the cabin, and then Lobo would find it, so it wouldn't be any help anyway. I've left something useful, maybe, with Benny. Show this note to him, and he'll know I sent you. Don't show it to Lobo, though. He might take it the wrong way. E. Let's take the note, then, and find this Benny. We examine the beds. The beds look comfortable, but the amount of bedding seems excessive. If we look under the beds, there's nothing interesting under either of the beds. That's a shame, Riemann mutters. Let's examine this little stove. Everything seems a little too close to the stove to be really safe, but there isn't room to be really safe in this overcrowded cabin. Well, let's go out. Outside the cabin, a modest wooden cabin sits on a snowy hillside to the southeast, surrounded by alder trees. The sky is cloudy and dim, the cold is malicious. Let's close the door and lock it. I wonder if it'll work differently if we do it from inside. Something to try later, perhaps. Let's go northeast first, to the cemetery. Wooden markers stick out of the snow in slightly irregular rows. The sign over the gate reserves this graveyard for the Yukon Order of Pioneers. 8th Avenue leads southwest. Someone else's tracks continue northeast across the snow. We'll examine the markers. Almost all the graves are from 1897 or 1898. If we go northeast, woods. The snow isn't as thick on the ground here, and the trail of footprints from the southwest disappears. Thick bushes hem you in on all other sides. Examine the bushes. You could probably push your way through the overgrowth, but it wouldn't be much fun. Can we search the bushes? Nothing of interest. Let's go back to the southwest then. And now, further southwest to the cabin. Let's go northwest this time to Church Street. Fort Herchmer. A snow-filled creek bed winds past the stables and barracks. All the buildings are dead silent. Church Street runs southeast and northwest. 3rd Avenue leads northeast. A boy in an anachronistic bomber jacket is watching you from down the street. If we examine the boy, he's not quite a teenager, and the rest of his face hasn't caught up to his peach fuzz mustache. His focused expression of distrust is clearly the product of rigorous practice. If we talk to the boy, you wave to the kid. Hey, are you Lobo? Maybe, he calls down the street. Who's asking? We're looking for Ebenezer Scrooge. Do you know where she is? He stiffens. I won't let you hurt Madam Scrooge, scumbags, he yelps, and he runs away. So he's the guy we need to give the salt candy to. Let's check the stables. Trails have been cut through the snow between buildings. Clearly there has been some activity here fairly recently. At the moment, though, all the soldiers are hidden away somewhere. How about the barracks? Yep, same. Okay. Let's go northeast to 3rd Avenue, to the middle of town. The streets are crowded with storefronts, but no business is being conducted that you can see, and the ruts in the road are all frozen over. 3rd Avenue runs northeast to southwest. Queen Street leads northwest. I'm going to keep going northeast, though, to Palace Grand Theater. A singularly ostentatious facade towers over you, dwarfing its neighbors in size and in architectural flamboyance. From this corner, 3rd Avenue continues southwest, and King Street leads northwest. Let's examine the facade. Bulbous bay windows hang over the sidewalk, topped with railings that suggest narrow, precarious balconies. All the lines of the building seem at odds with each other. The wood siding is applied in a bizarre herringbone pattern that you've never seen anywhere else before, and hope never to see again. You're awfully snooty about architecture, huh? Riemann grouses. Doesn't take a whole lot of snoot to be put off by something this awful, you tell him. Interesting. Palace Grand Theater in... This is Dawson City. I wonder if we can see a picture of it. Oh. That is apparently the location where you're at. I see what he means about the herringbone pattern. It is, yep, an architectural characteristic, all right. Okay, let's keep looking around to the northwest, to Ferry Landing. Some signs and fence posts stick out of the snow near the river's edge. The Yukon is frozen over. King Street leads southeast. First Avenue leads southwest. Let's examine the signs. It's only clear that this is where the ferry would be because one of the signs says so. Examine the Yukon. The Yukon almost seems broader than the town is, a plain of perfect white, interrupted at intervals with the tracks of a rabbit or moose. Let's go southeast from here. Okay, yeah, that's where we came from. Back to the northwest. Now we go southwest to Bank of Commerce. No commerce is occurring at the moment. The bank is closed and snow has piled up in the windows. Queen Street begins here and leads southeast. First Avenue runs northeast and southwest. Okay, so if we go southeast from here, we should be at an area we were at before. Yeah, middle of town, back to the northwest. Let's examine the bank. The cubic building is covered in imitation brickwork, false pilasters, and pediments of pressed metal, painted to look like stone. Freeman leans in for a closer look. How can you tell? Well, look at it, you say. But that isn't very helpful. We go southwest from here to Government House. The commissioner's residence stands facing the Yukon River, surrounded by a spacious lawn and tall fence. There are lights on inside, but no evidence that anyone has gone in or out since it snowed last. First Avenue runs northeast and southwest. Church Street begins here and leads southeast. We just came from the northeast. So if we go southeast, it should again be someplace we've already been. Yep, there's the fort, back to the northwest. So now we go examine the residence first. The veranda, with its excess of ornamental columns, is surmounted by a broad balcony, also with too many columns, and above this are two extraneous cupolas. It's all a bit hard to look at. Dawson City Commissioner's Residence? I want to see it. Oh. Yeah. Look at that. Okay. And then southwest from here to Confluence. Two rivers merge here, forming one great field of ice. On the far side are snow-covered cliffs, topped with snow-covered pines. First Avenue follows the Yukon northeast. Craig Street follows the Klondike to the southeast. Lobo is watching you from down the street. He's here, is he? Well, let's go southeast to the bridge. A wooden bridge leads southwest to an island in the middle of the Klondike, apparently given over entirely to one lumber mill operation. Craig Street follows the river southeast and northwest. So, examine this bridge. The massive bridge was evidently intended as a permanent installation, but it's very splintery and rickety looking. Can we brave it? If all your research was correct, you shouldn't have any cause to go trespassing at the lumber mill. Fair enough. Looks like we're going southeast then. Back to the edge of town. City, the top of the sign reads. The bottom of the sign is covered in snow. 8th Avenue leads northeast. Craig Street follows the Klondike to the northwest. The road out of town heads up the river to the southeast. Not much to see out that way. We haven't examined the Klondike River yet. Islands stick out of the frozen Klondike here and there, some of them possessed of a few feeble trees. If we go northeast, we are now outside the cabin. So we've come full circle. We need salt candy. Unlock door. South. Open it. In. Close door. Lock it. And open it. Okay, that I think that is exactly where we came in from, but now we're coming out of the other side of the door, which makes sense. We go out. You step through the narrow wooden door. Manchester, England, 14th June 1851. Yep, this is where we started from. So, let's go west from here to the dining hall. The doorway to the east led to the kitchen, west to the nursery, and the foyer was south. Closed door. No doors here. So let's go west to the nursery. Nursery. Whether it was to be a nursery or a playroom or something else was not entirely clear from its appearance, for the place was rather bare, but someone had donated a doll's house, and someone had donated a hobby horse, and here they were for the time being. The cabinet in the northwest corner, then, could be taken as a toy cabinet. The dining hall was the next room to the east. Examine the doll's house. The exterior of the doll's house was very fine, bristling with railings, molding, and cedar tiles, but inside the rooms were empty, and there was no story to be told of the house or its occupants, not yet. Let's examine the hobby horse. A painted horse's head, carved from wood, was mounted on a stick, and this leant against the wall in readiness for some daring getaway or military campaign. The mane was real horsehair. Examining the cabinet, in the northwest corner of the nursery stood a cabinet with a broad glass door, with a little lock. The door was closed, but its little lock was unlocked. We examine this door and go northwest into the cabinet. The cabinet door was tall and wide enough to allow Linus through if he hunched over a bit, but inside were so many shelves that he would never fit. So it looks like we're only coming through this in one direction. Let's close cabinet, lock it, and open it. He opened the toy cabinet, revealing a passageway to a damp forest in America. America. Let's go northwest now. He stepped through the toy cabinet. Jackson County, Indiana, 26 September 1996. Wreck. There's a chill in the air, and the branches above rustle impatiently. The forest is thick, but there are a few trails, clear spaces at least, to the north, west, and northwest. The rusted skeleton of a 1989 Corolla rests in the southeast corner of this clearing, surrounded by broken glass and other debris. Freeman surveys the scene. Not very human-friendly. You'd better stick close to me, he says, although he's still perched on your shoulder. So, wait, did we come out of the car? Most of the car has fallen off or disintegrated outright, but the driver's side door remains basically intact. It is locked but open, and inside is a passage back to 1851. Okay. That makes sense. Let's go the opposite direction we did before and go west to north. So if we go west, we get to culvert. A creek flowing from the north passes through a culvert here and continues to the west. On top of the culvert is a rusty sign. Paths into the trees lead east, southwest, and northwest. We examine the sign. No spassing, say the big letters that remain legible. Any further explanation has flaked away. It's not clear which side of the culvert is the forbidden one. Cool. Okay. Examine the creek. The creek bed is considerably wider than the stream of water running through it at the moment. The mud is wet enough to make you think it must have been more active fairly recently. We can go east, southwest, or northwest. Well, we just came from the east, so let's go southwest first to the construction site. There's a concrete foundation here, surrounded by a fallen fence of an orange netting. Weeds are growing all over everything. Paths lead northwest and northeast. A mildewy backpack lies at the edge of the cement. Examine backpack. It's been lying here all summer at the very least. The zipper is zipped shut. Open zipper. You open the mildewy backpack, revealing a talk boy. We take the talk boy. Examine it. A futuristic gadget made from gray plastic. It has a microphone and a speaker and a play button. Is this... I think this might actually be a real thing. Yeah, I remember seeing these in Sears catalogs when considering what to ask for Christmas and things like that. Definitely a thing, an artifact of the 90s. Press play. You press the play button. A tinny sound comes out of the speaker. Poop. Boobs. Penis. Did you say boobs? Yes, I said boobs. Do you ever listen to me? I guess that's all we're going to get. Okay. We can record a message or replay that remarkable message. Let's look. So let's examine the foundation. You can see the shape of a cozy little cabin. There'd be a kitchenette here and a breakfast nook there. People say things never work out the way you plan them, but the truth is, the more planning you do, the better your plan is, the more likely it'll work out the way you planned. I do get the impression that Linus is a planner, and a great plan is ongoing here. Let's go northwest to Palace. The creek flowing from the east widens here as it empties into a small pond. In the middle of the stream, upon her throne of shiny rocks, sits the Turtle Queen, surrounded by a handful of turtle courtiers and a little orange newt. A wire mesh cage stands at the edge of the creek. Paths into the woods lead north, northeast, and southeast. Okay. That's... hi, John. What's up, buddy? He is anxious for his evening treat. We're getting close, so we'll probably have to adjourn momentarily, but let's keep going as long as he'll let me. Let's examine the Turtle Queen. A midland-painted turtle of majestic aspect sits on the throne, casting a satisfied eye over the waterways that are her domain. Regal stripes of red and yellow adorn her lissom neck. Somehow you feel small in her presence, even though she's the size of a dinner plate. We talk to the Queen. You spread your wing and make a theatrical bow to the Queen of Turtles. Riemann alights from your shoulder and executes his own little genuflection. The Queen stares at you for a long moment. Riemann translates. We stand in the presence of Gerardine III, the Turtle Queen. Humans are forbidden from her watery dominion, but she makes an exception in this instance as she sees from your feathers that you are an animal friend. Plus, I'm here to legitimize you. She regrets that she has but little attention to spare for visitors, as she is distracted by the kidnapping of her son, Prince Wardlow, by the craven Beaver Lord Ernst and his insurrectionists. At the moment, she's making preparations to torture one of the conspirators, who's locked up in that cage over there. If we try talking again, can you tell her the prisoner is a friend of ours? You ask Riemann. That we can vouch for her? No, that's a terrible idea. You probably can't tell from her body language, but the Queen is incredibly paranoid right now. If we say we're with the prisoner, she'll assume that we're with the beavers who kidnapped Prince Wardlow, and she'll lock us up too. Ah. Can we offer to save her son? You thank the Turtle Queen for her hospitality. She stares back at you. We examine the cage. The steel wire is tightly knit. It might be some sort of crawdad trap. Inside the cage is a tiny flaxen-furred mouse. Oh no. Can we talk to the mouse? Riemann beats you to it. Ebenezabeth, are you okay? She squeaks in response. What are you doing here? Who put you in there? Squeak, squeak. Why didn't you just turn back into a human? She can't, you say. Ebenezer squeaks in the affirmative. But why don't you just break out? Squeak, squeak, squeak. Well, that's stupid. She shrugs. Freeman turns to you. We have to clear her name. Bring Prince Wardlow back here, and the Queen will set her free. We are going to consider how to do that for the next 5 minutes while I treat a cat. So pausing for 5 minutes. It's 9:15. We'll be back at 9:20 on my clock, so I will return momentarily. Thanks for your patience. We are back. So, we need to bring Prince Wardlow back to the Queen. Let's look. From here... we came from the... We walked northwest, so we came from the southeast. So we need to go... let's go north from here to the outpost. A turtle stands guard at the top of a large rock. He slowly turns his head toward you. Concluding you are not a threat, he turns back toward the north pathway. We examine the turtle. The sentry is completely motionless as he watches the north trail. His expression betrays nothing. We try talking to him. Hello, you call to the turtle. He doesn't even move his head. He says he's very busy, Freeman tells you. Makes sense. I'm guessing this is the boundary of the territory, and we'll find the beavers to the north. We go north to logging operation. A dozen beavers are hard at work here, felling trees, stripping logs, and lining them up to be dragged away. A channel of cleared earth leads east, and fainter trails head southeast and south. One lone beaver stands off to the side, looking bored. You watch him watching his fellow beavers as they work and chatter with each other. Then he looks up at you and shrugs. You talk to him. What's the matter, you ask. The beaver stares at you blankly. Freeman translates for you, and the two of them get into a conversation. You look around for a tree to lean against. Yeah, that makes sense, Freeman says, slipping out of animal speech for a second. Did you try? He switches back, and you're lost again. Finally, Freeman turns back to you. Well, long story short, he's bummed because he specializes in digging, and now that he's dug the channel, there's nothing left for him to do. And his name's Lem. You and I could probably find some work for him somewhere. I was thinking the same thing, says Freeman, who immediately squawks the suggestion to Lem. Lem grunts in assent, and you pick him up. We examine the channel itself. The vegetation has been chewed away, and the ground partially excavated to create a clear passage for logs to be pulled to the east. Let's head to the east and see where they're headed. To the dam. An impressive wall of mud and branches spans the creek bed, forming a substantial reservoir to the north. Beavers are scrambling over the dam, judging its integrity and making small repairs under the watchful eye of a large four-beaver. A relatively small current trickles under the dam and flows off to the southwest. Dry paths lead southeast and west. Let's examine the four-beaver. This beaver is obviously the oldest, and obviously he has some authority over the others, but he isn't issuing any orders or advice. He's just watching the others work. We talk to the four-beaver. You let Freeman do the talking. He and the four-beaver gab at each other for a bit, and then Freeman returns to your shoulder. So, that's Ernst, and these guys are very upset with the turtles that live downstream, because somehow they destroyed a statue of Veronica, the legendary engineer. Have you heard of her? I don't think so. She was a beaver. Anyway, to retaliate, the beavers kidnapped Wardlow the Turtle Prince, and they're not letting him go until the turtles repair or replace the statue. But the turtles won't negotiate. They won't even admit fault. And actually, Freeman glances at Ernst. Then he leans toward you. I don't know for sure if they know for sure that it was the turtles who broke the statue in the first place. It sounds like there's a lot of assumptions going around. Yeah, it does sound that way. Seeing as how Ebenezabeth's caught up in this somehow. Let's examine the dam while we're here. The dam is remarkably regular in its construction. Branches have been cut to equal length, assembled with almost mechanical precision. But there's always room for improvement, apparently. We can go southeast and west. We came from the west. Let's actually go west first and then... No, okay, yeah, this was the edge. We didn't have anywhere further north to go. So if we go southeast to the log bridge. The creek curves from northeast to southeast here, where a fallen log makes it easy to cross without stepping through any mud. When she sees you coming, a little squirrel quickly scurries to the other side. Paths lead east, south, and northwest. Examining the squirrel, a small brown squirrel, very jumpy, but inclined to keep watching you rather than scampering out of sight. We'll try talking to her, as long as we're here. Hey, you say. The squirrel doesn't understand you. So you turn to Freeman. Can you tell her hello and that we come in peace? Sure. He calls at the squirrel, who chitters something back. Freeman turns to you. She says she's not a spy. If we continue talking, you ask Freeman, if she's not a spy, is there any useful intelligence that she can't share with us? Freeman translate your question for the squirrel. She chirps in response. Yes, there is, says Freeman. You nod to the squirrel, and she gives you an uneasy nod back. Okay, so the squirrel knows things but can't talk about them because she's not a spy. Fair enough. Paths lead east, south, and northwest. We go northwest and then east. From the dam, we can go southeast and west. So let's go southeast here to Lookout. A beaver sees you approaching and falls off a log, squeaking in terror. It's okay, Freeman croaks, and then he squawks something you don't understand. The beaver stops whining, climbs back onto the log, and grunts something in beaver language. Freeman whispers in your ear, I told him you were with me. He says I better keep you in line. He's not supposed to let any humans past here. Paths lead south, west, and northwest. You hear a car rushing down the highway, far away. I wonder if he's supposed to keep us away from the beaver operation, and so that's why he was so startled when we came from the opposite side, or if this is just... I don't know. It's not worth speculating on. Let's go... south from here to Hill. From up here, you can just barely see part of the interstate. Actually, we getting a little premature here. Let's talk to the beaver. You turn to Freeman. Tell him you can trust me not to cause any trouble. Freeman blinks. I'm not going to lie to the poor guy. Then he chirps to the beaver, who squeaks something in return, and they both chortle about something for a bit. Great. Okay. You have lost interest in this beaver. Fair enough. Let's go south to the hill. Paths down into the trees lead north, south, and west. And south is the wreck. So we have now circumnavigated the area. So we've got Lem the beaver, the talk boy, the note paper, the skeletonic key, the money pouch, and 5 invitations. Where is the statue? Let's go northwest here to headquarters. A pack of squirrels notices your arrival and scatters into the trees. Only one squirrel stands his ground. He stalks forward, baring his teeth, uttering a tiny, skewering snarl. Freeman hops off of your shoulder and flutters in front of the squirrel, croaking menacingly. The two beasts step toward each other, snapping, growling. Then their posture slackens. Each takes a step back. Freeman flaps up to your shoulder. I'll give you the short version, he says. That's Ollie. He says this is a real delicate situation we've wandered into, and the squirrels stand to gain a lot when the balance of power shifts. I told him we don't have any political interest here. He trusts us, but only because you're obviously not a spy. So he'll let us through. Thanks for handling all that, you tell him, as Ollie's comrades cautiously emerge from their hiding places. The creek running from the northwest turns to the south here, narrowing to a point where it's possible to hop right across. Dry paths through the forest lead east, southeast, and west. Ollie and his gang of squirrels are poring over some scratches in a big piece of bark. Can we examine the bark? You lean over the squirrel's shoulders. The scratches in the bark appear to be an outline of the surrounding area. Would you like to see an ASCII map? Heck yes, I would. Okay, so this is the territory. We've got beaver territory, squirrel territory, turtle territory. We've definitely been to these areas. I don't know that we've been to these two. I think we've been to at least one of these two, but I don't know that we've been to both. So we'll go east from here after we finish talking to Ollie. What's he telling them, you ask Freeman. They have to wait until the moment when chaos strikes and then seize that opportunity. And until then, they have to watch out for the signs that chaos is about to strike. Freeman clicks his beak. He's being really vague. We go west to the clearing. A pile of plastic barrels surrounded by a greasy patch of bare earth. Paths lead north, east, southeast, southwest, and northwest. Actually, I'm going to take a screenshot because I've actually found this map quite useful. And it looks good. I really like it. Okay. Screenshot snapped. Let's continue examining the barrels. Bright blue 50-gallon drums, some sealed, some leaking. No labels. Can we talk to the turtles again? Let's go southwest and talk to Queen. Okay, no, she has nothing more to say about that. Let's examine the rocks. The most colorful and lustrous pebbles available have been arranged in a little pile so that the Turtle Queen can sit a couple of inches above everyone else. Let's examine the newt. Unlike the rest of the court, the newt is moving constantly, looking upstream, looking across the pond, looking at you, darting up to the throne to whisper in the queen's ear, darting back to the circle of courtiers. Behind her glittering black eyes lies a mind that's racing just as fast. Let's talk to the newt. Freeman hops down to chat with the newt for a moment, and then he returns to your shoulder and whispers, "That's Kit. She's doing a classic evil advisor thing, telling the queen not to trust anybody, advising her against anything that would lead to better relations with the beavers." Who's she working for? Hard to say. I don't know who stands to gain from a war. She might just be in it for herself. You nod. Oh boy. Okay. Can we talk to the... Let's examine the courtiers. The Queen's stoic attendants come from several turtle factions. Eastern Mud, Eastern Box, River Cooter. The snapping tribes are not represented. "Hello," you say, when trying to talk to the courtiers. The Queen's attendants make no noise. Do not turn to see who's talking. "They're ignoring you," explains Freeman. All right, well, to the northeast, an eerie feeling tickles the back of your neck. Listen. Search the barrels. You shouldn't get too close. Are these... That's troubling. Yeah, okay. Shouldn't search the barrels. You shouldn't get too close. No labels is pretty ominous. Okay, well, let's go... to the northwest. Nope, back to the southeast. Let's go north to the log bridge. So the squirrels are to the southeast from here, and the squirrel lookout is here. Yeah, she doesn't have anything more. The beavers are logging here. Their lookout is to the south. No, this is the turtle lookout. Better leave him to his work. Okay. The beavers don't have a lookout. They're too busy working. No, the beaver lookout is to the southeast. That's right. To the lookout. Yeah. Southeast of the beavers, northwest of the squirrels, and north of the turtles? Yeah. I'm not interested in talking to this beaver? Yeah, that's right. Talk to 4 beaver. You direct your question to Freeman. So, the only way the beavers will return Prince Wardlow is if the turtles replace the statue of their famous beaver engineer? Veronica. It's slightly more complicated than that, Freeman tells you. I left out a few animal political details that humans aren't really equipped to understand. Oh, thanks. So, okay. They have Prince Wardlow. They won't return Prince Wardlow without the statue and also something more. Okay, yeah, they're all causing issues. um, Lem is a more or less portable beaver, apparently well versed in excavation. He doesn't have much to say at the moment. Fair enough. Let's get back to the car, I guess. Actually, let's close the door, unlock it, and open it. Look in Corolla. Search Corolla. Nope, nothing. Okay. In. You can climb inside the wrecked car, but it's not that much different from being outside. Just a little less comfortable. So you climb back out. You hear a very loud motorcycle somewhere far to the east. Alright, we close a door, lock it, open it, in. Back to the nursery. Let's go back to the east. Let's show Lem to Scrooge. He wanted to keep track of Lem the Beaver. Show notepaper to Scrooge. Has anyone ever called you Benny, Sir Ebenezer? No, not within earshot, said old Scrooge. But he had a look at the note anyway and confirmed that he had no idea what any of it meant. All right. Well, there are still more rooms to explore. Let's go south now to the foyer. A statue of Athena stood in the foyer, greeting visitors to the Scrooge Orphans and Widows' Home, Manchester Extension, with a dispassionate half smile. A framed copy of the home's charter hung near the front door. The way into the dining hall was past the stairs to the north. The orphans and widows' dormitories were at the top of the front stair. Let's examine the statue. The goddess wore a long robe and a helmet pushed back on her forehead, and perched on her wrist was a little owl. She's here to bless the home with wisdom, Riemann explained. Chastity, said Linus. Let's examine the charter while we're here. The charter, in Ebenezer Scrooge's own hand, laid out the mission of his orphans and widows' home and the standards by which it must be administered, in flowery, idealistic terms at first, and then, in a lawyer's soulless prose, swinging suddenly to and fro between these registers, sometimes in mid-sentence, and never managing to say anything of substance. Or at least this was the general effect on Linus, who could not bring himself to read past the first few lines. Cool. And we examine a door here. The tall front door of the Scrooge's Orphans and Widows' Home was closed but unlocked. We open it. Can we go out? The front door was south, the dining hall was north, and of course the rest of the house was upstairs. If we try going south, Linus had no business anywhere else in Manchester at the moment, and there was no reason for him to leave the home through the front door. At least, not while the front door was unlocked. Yes, we close it. Door. Lock it. Open it. He opened the front door, revealing a passageway to a city square in Copenhagen. We go south. He stepped through the front door. Copenhagen, Denmark, 9th July, 1833. Kongens Nytorv. All at once the air is hot and muggy. The effect is stifling. And it stinks, Riemann notices. It's the middle of the day, and people are hurrying in every direction, in carriages and on foot. Some gawking at you, some pointedly averting their eyes. The King's Square is an uninspiring field of grass, worn down to bare dirt by pedestrians cutting across. It all manages to make Christian V's statue look more impotent than heroic. The imposing doorway north of you is that of the Thought Mansion. Nyhaven is across the street to the east. Close the door, unlock it, open it, north. You predict that the occupants of the Thought Mansion would object to your wandering inside. Well, so be it. Let's lock it again. Close it. Lock it. Okay. Let's go east. Let's examine the people first. Everybody's got somewhere to be. Even the people who look a little lost aren't about to ask you for directions. East to Bredgade. A busy street. Carriages, pedestrians, couriers on horseback. You seem to be in everybody's way. The King's Square is on the west side of the road, and Nyhaven is on the east. Examining the carriages. Yeah, everybody's got somewhere to be. Even the people who look a little lost aren't about to ask you for directions. Would you get a move on? Grumbles Freeman, and with a small peck he propels you forward. Nyhaven. There seems to be some disagreement about the disposition of the boat being unloaded here, at the end of the canal. The road along the canal continues to the east. The King's Square is across the street to the west. A man with a pointy mustache is trying to make eye contact with you. We try to examine the man. As soon as you give him an opening, he ripples toward you. Not from around here, are we? Looking for excitement in the big city? Sure, you tell him. I'm positively starved for excitement. My good man, I have just the thing to sate your appetite. He produces a polished wooden case, just like the ones being hauled off the nearby boat in such numbers. There is excitement in here to last you a lifetime, guaranteed. He pulls back the lid, revealing a polished cylinder with brass fittings. I'm afraid I'll be on my way soon, though, so it behooves the young gentleman not to delay taking advantage of this offer. Are we interested? Yes. Maybe, you tell him. Am I right to assume that the item in question is of dubious legal status? Dubious only in the sense of unclear, I assure you. He leans in and whispers, We're at much greater risk discussing the matter here than you will be as you carry your souvenir home. Then I suppose it behooves the criminal with the mustache not to quibble about prices, you say, pressing a few coins into his hand. He looks at them, rolls his eyes, then tosses you the box before stalking away. If we examine the box, the wooden case, a longish box made from dark wood. It is closed. We open it. You open the wooden case, revealing a kaleidoscope. We're going to close it and walk to the east after we examine the boat. The Faun flies a French flag. Her captain is arguing with an irate bureaucrat, adamant that the vessel cannot be unloaded here, powerless to stop the unloading in progress. Yeah, we go east to market. Nuts, yells the nut vendor. Tasty, invigorating nuts. Nyhaven is crowded with people buying, selling, and gawking. The buildings are squeezed together, too. To the north is a sweet shop. Next door is a brothel supplier. The road along the canal continues east and west. Let's examine the nut vendor. A man in a felt hat has a little stall, and in that stall are dozens of bags of nuts. We talk to the man. You step up to the vendor. He glances at your wing, then eagerly pretends not to have noticed it. Could I possibly convince you to avail yourself of some nuts? Any nuts at all? Yeah. I usually don't think it's worth the bother trying to convince anyone of anything, you say, tossing the man a coin. But then, I'm not in sales. He hands you a bag of nuts. We examine the nuts. The bag of nuts is getting less warm by the second. You notice Freeman is eyeing the nuts, too. Yeah, I think we're going to save those for some squirrels, is my guess. Because I have never played any of this part of the game, for sure. Let us examine the sweet shop. The blue-gray building has no front window in which to display any confectionery. The business is identified only by the word sweets over the door, in Danish. We examine the supplier. One of the signs in the front window says, discreet. The other one says, wholesale only. Let's go north first, to the sweet shop. In the middle of the dusty room are 5 barrels. The proprietor, shirtless in hirsute, leans over his counter to stare at you impatiently. On the counter is a dark bottle. Obviously, I'm going to examine that. We examine the proprietor. It's hard to imagine how someone could enjoy hanging out in this dusty, humid room all alone. Yet the Candyman is not happy to see you. We talk to the man. You got a weird arm, says the man. Are you sure? You ask. I've been told it's very inconspicuous, barely noticeable. You must be, no offense, uncommonly observant. The Candyman stops caring. We examine the barrels. Each barrel contains a different candy. Turkish Delight, Humbugs, Black Licorice, Sugar Plums, Anise Comfits. Each barrel is between 1/3 and 1/2 full. Let's examine these candy, because I think Turkish Delight might qualify as salt candy, but I'm not positive. We examine the Turkish Delight. The barrel contains some pink cubes, mostly stuck together, despite how much white powder they've been covered with. Examine the Humbugs. In the barrel are some irregularly shaped, slightly shiny, black and white striped objects. Examine the Sugar Plums. The Sugar Plums are a pale pinkish color. We examine the Anise. In this barrel are a bunch of lumpy beige things. And the licorice. The little black lozenges in this barrel are pieces of licorice. I'm rereading the note, and I doubt that this is Benny, but let's show note to proprietor. He is completely uninterested. All right, well, until we know which of the candies to buy, can we ask the man about bottle? No, we can talk to the man. You got money? Yes, a lot. Then buy something and get out. I think we'll just go out. Too late to get them while they're hot, so get them while they're warm, the nut vendor wails. I wonder if this will earn chastisement from Freeman. If we go northeast? No. We enter the supplier. The sign says wholesale only. All right, yeah, we're not going to be buying anything there. Let's go east to Nyhaven number 34. The crowd has thinned out. There's an acrid scent on the air here. A man sits on an upturned crate in front of Nyhaven 34, puffing on a cigar. A rickety ladder has been hooked over the edge of the canal. Let's examine this man. This has got to be the guy. He wears a thick beard and a wool cap, both discolored by smoke. His smile is distinctly unfriendly. We talk to the man. You steel yourself. I beg your pardon, my good man. I have something to give to your daughter. The man squints at you. Let me see it, he barks. So you show him the invitation. He acts like he's reading it. You from the government? No. Well, the little girl's doing her chores at the moment. He nods at the ladder. She's not allowed to take any piece of paper from any half-bird man and his pet crow until her chores are done. Of course, you say. We examine the ladder. This ladder has been cobbled together from loose bits of wood. It will probably bear your weight as long as you're quick about it. Let's try climbing the ladder. Water line. You thought that smell was the man's cigar, but it's coming from down here. The bottom of the ladder rests on a stone walkway under an inch or two of water. This is why you're not wearing anything you don't mind getting wet. A tendril of smoke carries from within a very cramped tunnel carved into the side of the canal. Examine the water. The canal runs from the harbor to the east, to the King Square to the west. You've seen cleaner canals. You've seen dirtier canals, too. Examine the tunnel. There's a light flickering inside the tunnel. We go in. Hole. A little girl is hunched over inside a drain pipe, clearing muck out with her bare hands by the light of a sooty lantern. We examine the little girl. Her flaxen hair is matted with filth. She's about 5 years old, just barely small enough to fit in that pipe. It will take her hours or days to unclog it herself, but she goes on working regardless, betraying neither melancholy nor bitterness. Well, I happen to know someone who's good at digging. Maybe this little fellow could take over for a bit, you say, presenting the beaver to the little girl. His name's Lem. She searches the creature's eyes. I would hate to impose, she says. It is my daddy's right to force grueling, dangerous chores upon me, but I don't have any such authority over this small animal. He'd be delighted, Freeman assures her, and the beaver nods eagerly. All right, says the little girl, and she extricates herself from the pipe. You lift the beaver inside, and he gets straight to work. Can I give you this now? You hold out an invitation. Certainly, says the little girl. She only glances at the text. I'm afraid I can't read it, though. That's no problem. Everything will be taken care of. Then I think I'll stay here for a while to supervise Lem. I wouldn't want to bother my daddy with boring details. Certainly, you say. All right. Well, we have successfully delivered one of our invitations to the little match girl herself. It was nice to meet you, little girl. She's polite. She smiles politely. It was nice to meet you too, sir. Thank you again for your help. We go out to the water line. And we go up. And we go back to the west. Still plenty of nuts, the nut vendor calls. Get your nuts here. Nyhaven is crowded with people buying, selling, and gawking. The buildings are squeezed together, too. To the north is a sweet shop. Next door is a brothel supplier. The road along the canal continues east and west. What are you groaning about? Freeman asks. You didn't realize you were sighing so loudly. It just occurred to me, you tell him. I've spent a lot of time thinking about punching that man in the mouth, and that there was probably the only chance I'll ever get. We could go back if you like. You shake your head. Better not. We go to the west, to Nyhaven. The difficulty surrounding the vessel moored here has yet to be resolved, yet her dutiful crew continues to unload it regardless. The road along the canal continues to the east. The King's Square is across the street to the west. Okay, let's go back and let's go enter sweet shop. Can we buy the bottle? Not for sale, says the man. Rat poison. All right, cool. So they got rats here. That's fantastic. Examine that note. Salty candy. Salty candy. The Turkish Delight. Mostly stuck together despite how much white powder they've been covered with. I think that's mostly sweet. Humbugs. Irregularly shaped, slightly shiny black and white striped objects. That doesn't seem salty to me. Licorice. I think, let's look at the comfits. You toss the man a coin and take an anise comfit from the barrel. Can we buy them all? Sure, okay. Let's go ahead and, yeah, I guess we could just eat them. Taste the Turkish. You chew the Turkish Delight very slowly and deliberately because it has the consistency of a block of wood. You try to say something about this to the candy man, but your teeth are stuck. He understands nonetheless. That's how you get your money's worth. You pop the anise comfit in your mouth. it dissolves mercifully quickly. Tastes like glue, you remark. The man frowns. Well, they taste like other stuff, too. Okay. You toss the man a coin and take a sugar plum from the barrel. You eat the sugar plum. It is sugar all the way through, with a slightly fruity aftertaste. Not bad, you say. The Candyman shrugs. The other two are the black licorice and the humbugs. Taste the humbug next. You suck on the humbug for a while. They are like sucking a piece of lukewarm ice. What is this supposed to taste like? You ask the Candyman. His eyes widen in fear. If it starts to taste like anything, you gotta induce vomiting right away. Okay. Licorice. Buy the licorice. Taste it. Unwise. Yeah, that is unwise. But it might be salty. Let's go out and west and west and west again. And open door. In. Oh, we've got to go north. Step through the front door. Now we're in Manchester, England again. Let's close the door. And the way into the dining hall was past the stairs to the north. The orphans and widows' dormitories were at the top of the front stair. Let's go up to the hallway. At the top of the stairs, in the middle of a rather narrow hallway, was posted a tall sign bearing all the rules that would govern guests of the Scrooge Orphans and Widows' Home, Manchester Extension. Smaller placards flanked the sign, indicating that the door to the east led to the orphans' dormitory, and the door to the west was for the widows. Whoa! Read the sign. The rules of the Orphans and Widows' Home were as follows. No running. No roughhousing. No pickpocketing. Any orphan who finds employment in a coal mine or textile factory shall be dismissed from the home. Any orphan who joins a pickpocketing gang shall be dismissed from the home. Any orphan or widow who damages the home by arson or vandalism shall be dismissed from the home. Any widow who, by virtue of marriage, becomes no longer unmarried shall be dismissed from the home. No spitting. Any widow who, by virtue of establishing independence, becomes no longer helpless shall be dismissed from the home. Any widow who invites a man into the home for illicit purposes of the particular sort that the canny reader may infer as unbecoming to this charitable context, but which to preserve the innocence of our orphans shall not here be explicated, shall be dismissed from the home. Any orphan who, by virtue of adoption, becomes no longer parentless shall be dismissed from the home. Any orphan who survives to the age of 21 years shall be dismissed from the home. Any widow who attempts to adopt or succeeds in adopting an orphan prior to establishing her own independence shall be dismissed from the home. Any widow who attempts to convene or succeeds in convening a pickpocketing gang of orphans shall be dismissed from the home, etc. Okay. Very good. Fantastic. Let's go east. Open dormitory door. Which do you mean? The widow's dormitory door or the orphan's dormitory door? Orphans. Open orphan. Open orphan's door. Open orphan's dormitory door. Open east door. He opened the orphan's dormitory door. East. Orphan's dormitory. A great many child-sized beds lined the walls of this room, and at the foot of each bed hung a slate upon which the resident orphan might scrawl a name or a nickname. For now, though, every bed was unoccupied, and every slate was quite blank. Mrs. Prunetree puttered between the beds, her shoes clacking loudly on the floor. With each moment she found another coverlet to straighten or another speck of dust to brush away. The door to the hallway was west. We examined Mrs. Prunetree. Sir Ebenezer was an expert in the field of amassing wealth, but not in the field of caring for large quantities of widows or orphans. To compensate for this deficiency, he had enlisted a matron. Mrs. Prunetree was possessed of supreme compassion, of infinite, almost grandmotherly patience for the antics of small children, and yet she was capable, when necessary, of compelling the most noisome urchin into a state of composed obedience. If she had any faults, they were more than outweighed by her aptitude for her chosen profession. In fact, she did have faults. Among these were deficit of imagination, clumsiness, a total lack of mathematical ability, total faith in her mathematical ability, and scatterbrainedness. But we will not dwell on the subject. That's not a verb I recognize. Oh, I see. In attempting to examine Mrs. Prunetree, I inserted a period into her name, and the game took examine Mrs. as the command to examine her, and then Prunetree is a second command that is not understood. So that's why that command appeared there. Talk to her. Mrs. Prunetree smiled warmly as he approached. Master Linus, how good to see you again, and you've brought Ebenezabeth's tame crow. Talking crow, Freeman pointed out, but Prunetree pretended not to hear. Sir Ebenezer took pains to inform me that you'll be very busy today, she said to Linus. Is there anything I can do to help? I don't think so, said Linus, so she smiled and went back to her puttering. Let us close this troublesome door and lock it and open it. He opened the hallway door, revealing a passageway to the rusty interior of someone's gym locker, containing a woven cape and a pair of sandals. Let's examine the cape. The cape was woven with numerous stripes and diagonal patterns in green, black, and brown. The cape didn't belong to him. Examine the sandals. The sandals were woven from the same material as the cape. They were almost falling apart. Yep, also not mine. Okay, well, let's close the door and unlock it and open it and go out and close east door, lock it, open it. He opened the orphan's dormitory door, revealing a passageway to a locker room with walls of orange stone. East. He stepped through the orphan's dormitory door. Amikusi, 5th October, 2851. Locker room. 7 lockers are set into the stone walls. White, black, blue, orange, green, purple, red. A narrow bench runs along the center of the room. One archway leads north, deeper into the complex. Another leads outside. In the west wall, the green locker stands open, providing access to the Scrooge Orphans and Widows' Home. Freeman sniffs the air. Smells like volcano, he mutters. This seems like a prime opportunity to save our game. Lockers. And let's call it here for this week because I am running out of time in my weekend and I need to prepare for bed. But I want to thank you for joining me as we began the first foray into the Little Match Girl 5, and we shall meet again next time.